Hey everyone, I'm Victor Dwyer, and today we're going to be talking about Amazon Growth 101, how to grow on each stage of your journey as an Amazon seller. Today we have Kennedell on from Three Colts. We're going to go through, he's going to give us an intro about who he is, how he got into this whole e-commerce mess is what I always call it. And then from there, we'll kind of really jump in and see how we can benefit every stage of the Amazon journey. Kennedell, thank you so much for joining today.
Yo, thanks for having me on, Victor. Appreciate it.
No problem. Yeah, please give us an intro of who you are and kind of how you got started in all this.
Yeah, so my journey in the Amazon space is a little bit unusual, right?
Okay.
Typically, you find people coming into this space as the path of maybe being a former seller, helping a seller, or running a brand within Amazon and trying to like optimize certain aspects of it. My journey is totally different, right? So let me give you the long-winded version, okay?
Okay.
So I came from a forensic accounting background, right?
Wow. Okay.
And yeah, from a forensic accounting background, went to do my MBA, right? And then post MBA, what I wanted to do was more so get my hands dirty in a startup, right? Early stage, build something from the ground up, right?
Yeah.
So when I was looking for things to do in this space, I got connected with the CEO of Three Coats, Yoda, at the time, who was looking to build an agency and ad automation business for Amazon. Now, a little bit of background on Yoda. He was ex Amazon at the time. He had been there for 5 years across their fresh and then ad API teams. So he was looking to take on some of that expertise and build a
Yeah.
business around it. Yeah. So I got connected with him. We started working together in 2019. And so we started with that agency business, grew that, but we wanted to expand much, much faster, right? So at the
Great.
time, what we were thinking of doing was to acquire other agencies and add automation businesses. But while we're doing our research and around the time we were looking to raise and acquire businesses, there was a big boom around the aggregator space, right? So that boom got us to thinking, hey, these businesses are likely going to need some software tools to help them operate, to help them manage the growing pains, to help them scale. So we cast our net wider, right, from just ad automation tools and agencies to look at the whole Amazon software ecosystem, right? And so we started off with our first acquisition, which was in the reimbursement space, and we've gone down the path to acquire over 14 tools in our ecosystem across 5 different categories. So me saying my journey is a little
Yeah.
bit unusual in the sense that, look, I didn't come from being a seller. In fact, I only became a seller after getting involved in this Amazon mess, as you said, and so it's been a bit of an unusual path to get here today.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's really cool. And then kind of like diving into like the Amazon journey, like really like start to finish. What would you say kind of like at the beginning, what would you recommend to someone first, like first of all taking a step back before they even become a seller, what would you recommend what they're kind of jumping into? Like let's be honest, like margins on Amazon like with inflation and everything else aren't the hottest thing right now. People are in a
Mhm.
lot of tough spaces. Like, what would you recommend to anyone trying to get into Amazon right now? What would you say to those people?
Man, I'll tell you, look, the from the outside looking in, right? Amazon may appear to be a gold mine, right? From someone looking out there, look, I put my
Yeah.
listing up. There's all this traffic coming to Amazon. People are gonna find I'm gonna make a ton of money. No, what I'll recommend to these people who are starting is to really do thorough research and understand the full dynamics of the Amazon ecosystem, right? Look, are you
Yeah.
going to be an arbitrage player? Are you going to be a private label player? Are you just going to be looking for the hottest items, right? And then capitalize on those arbitrage opportunities, right? You really need to understand what you're getting yourself into. You also need to understand the economic landscape of an Amazon operation, right? All the platform fees that you have to pay, all the supply chain costs that you have to incur, building your brand or building your store on Amazon, right? All these, you need to do a lot of groundwork and think
Yeah.
about
True.
the Amazon operation holistically before diving in. Yeah.
That's really important. And I think another step on top of that is to really be passionate about your product as well. Like just not picking something because it necessarily is trending right now or anything else like that, because you're going to go through a lot of failures in there um, that are going to be super discouraging. And if you don't have an actual passion of your product, that if you're just doing it to arbitrage, that it's just going to like be very, very, you're going to go through a lot of failures. Just from the fact that you don't use the product is a big disadvantage. Like, think about it.
Mhm.
If you buy $20,000 of inventory and you don't even use the product, you're not going to know what features that are what people are going to really use. Like, think about it. If I got $20,000 of this pen and I was
Mhm.
like, oh, like this pen doesn't even work very well if you like are actually using it, and there are going to be certain things you like are going to just naturally know by using your product. And I think that's going to be a really important factor of like having it being it successful is using the product, being passionate about it, and not just doing it because it makes you money.
For a cash grab. No, the cash grab is definitely the wrong motivation for getting into this space, right? It sounds like from what you're saying, right? Let's say you're someone who has their own brand, right? Using Amazon as an extension of your omni-channel strategy kind of makes sense. But even then, right? Selling D2C on your website, selling on Amazon, it's a totally different ball game, and people really need to realize the nuances and the mechanics that make Amazon work versus like a direct to consumer website, for example.
True. Yeah. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right about that. And what would you say for the person like they have the passionate product, they have a product that they know they want to sell, and going from there, what would you recommend about like the person that's really starting to like they have one or two products up and they're just
Mhm.
really starting to like get on Amazon and things like that? What would you
Yeah.
recommend to that type of seller?
Yeah. So when you're starting out, right, the way I look at the Amazon flywheel or the success on Amazon is first off, you start off with the listings, right? Look, make sure you have best in class listings. And what I mean by that is make sure your title is keyword optimized, not keyword stuff, keyword optimized, right? Making sure it's relevant for the searches within your niche, making sure you have high quality imagery, making sure your bullet points are tight and concise and properly describing what you're selling. And then the part that a lot of people tend to overlook or skip out on is that social proofing, right?
That's true.
Look, you shop on Amazon all the time. Are you gonna buy something with one star review over
It's
something
rough.
with 1,000
It's
five
pretty
star
rough.
reviews? No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Uh-huh.
building that social proof on your products. To look, every generally speaking, you can find some friends and family to help you around with this to try and give you some honest feedback around your products. Right.
Yeah.
Once you have those elements in place, the next piece is then that demand generation aspect. Right, and you can do this on and offline on Amazon through sponsored ads, or you can bring some external traffic through your other sites to get to that listing to really drive that growth. But I think getting those fundamentals in place, it's very very key for making sure you have a successful launch. Yeah.
I agree with that. I agree with that. And to add a little bit more oomph to that is, we had a supplement client that was a
Yeah.
lactation support, was a lactation booster, was a collagen supplement, and also a daily vitamin.
Ooh.
And they spent all this money to try to figure out like, and they couldn't figure out what the problem was. And it's because they couldn't find what the right product pitch was. Um,
Hmm.
and that was the biggest thing. Like, is it a lactation collagen supplement? Is that what they care? Is that what the consumer cares? Is it a collagen daily vitamin lactation supplement? Like, the order really does matter. And like, I think really A/B testing title tags, not enough people talk about that, unfortunately. And really adjusting your product pitch goes a long, long way, especially if you're a supplement, or you can really change the way that things, rather than being a bone health supplement, maybe you can be a joint health supplement. Like, there's certain ways that you can maneuver certain things and to make it where your product pitch is different and people might care about that more. So that's what I would recommend to anyone that's really like trying to get their product. I would A/B test it. You can use PickView,
I
PickFu.
agree.
I think that's
Oh,
it.
pick for
And
okay.
A/B
Okay.
test the different title tags and see what people like the most, and you can know what the best product pitch is before you even go live. So those are some huge advantages that you can do to like really drive and like really make it successful?
Yeah. Out of curiosity, in the case of this supplement, what did you guys find to work best?
It was actually like we did it by search volume and see what was competitive at the very
Hmm.
beginning, but
Okay.
then like we really just saw that people really cared about the lactation booster at the very beginning, and then it was collagen after. So we actually so it was collagen in it, but we actually pitched it as a lactation hair vitamin,
Okay.
lactation hair vitamin booster.
Okay.
So the
Okay.
people that wanted lactation, they're like, oh, it also has a hair. It's a hair vitamin also. But rather than saying
Yeah.
collagen, we said hair vitamin, like hair booster, whatever you
Yeah.
want to call
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
And like, there's a million ways to say it, like literally a million. So we ended up doing a lactation hair booster, and that was the winning thing. But it took months of A/B testing, and then once that worked, it was like boom, it was like on fire after that. But we really had to A/B test the crap out of it. Luckily, I'm religious about A/B testing, so it wasn't a big
Okay.
deal. But I don't think enough people do that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, no. A lot of people think of Amazon as a static operation, right? A lot of
Set it
people
and
do it
forget it.
wrong. Yeah, exactly. Put it there, and it's gonna drive me passive income. No, for you to be very successful in this, you want to be very diligent about how you review your operations and how you analyze the data behind your operation to optimize it. Right. A
Yeah,
lot of times, what tends to be a limiting factor for sellers in this regard is just access to the right tools, right, to gain those insights from your products. Luckily,
hmm
we generally, given our experience in the space, given our understanding of the customer experience, understanding of the customer journey, and when I say customer here, I'm talking about the seller, right?
yeah,
We have acquired and built capabilities in the space to help people gain better insights and generally operate more efficiently and
hmm
automate processes for the Amazon businesses. So um,
that's great. That's great.
yeah,
And
we're here
so,
to
what
help.
would yeah, and like we all know Amazon is a momentum machine. So really once you start picking up those sales and really start driving it from there, what would you say for the person that's in the 100 to like a lot of people stay stagnant between like I would say 10,000 to $20,000 a month and they kind of level off. What I see a lot. And I'll call those small medium sellers because they're not exactly medium yet. They're kind of in between that small medium level. What would you recommend to those sellers? Those that are in a small to medium level to kind of raise like what tool either tools would you recommend, what would you kind of recommend to kind of ramp and keep that momentum going or increase it?
Yeah, so what we've generally found through research is generally the bump in performance as you go through different levels of reviews, right? So let's say 0 to 100 reviews, this is a certain like a conversion rate level that you'd be operating at. You go from 100 to 1,000, you're seeing a different level, and then 10,000 plus, you're definitely seeing much better conversion rates around there, right? I think
Yeah.
that for those sellers that are kind of stuck, oftentimes we find that it tends to be um, just a symptom of not refreshing the listings enough. And what I mean by that is, look, the imagery, the listing itself stays constant, your review count stays constant, right? These are things that you have to work actively around. Now, generally, Amazon is going to issue out messages to the buyers requesting reviews, right? But you need to do more in soliciting those reviews, right? That's where
Yeah.
some of the tools we have in our system come into place, right? So taking a little bit of a step back, right? We operate across 5 different categories, right? We have financial operations tools, we have
Yeah.
growth tools, which will be helping to address these problems that you're talking about. We have customer service tools, we have data and visualization tools, and then we
That's
have
great.
reseller tools, right? So for this particular problem, our growth tools tend to be the ones that will help drive and automate some of that review requests, right? Just
hmm
so you are getting the right reviews, right? You're asking the right people. You don't want someone who got a product with a screw missing to leave
Yeah.
a review. No, that's going to be one star automatically, right? You want to have some
Yeah.
intelligence around that operation and request the right reviews, right? So
hmm
generally, as you tend to scale, get to that 20,000 a month mark, which is generally in the small side, as you say. you want to start building automations. You want to start building processes around your business whereby you can clearly visualize performance at the granular level and then make the most out of your dollar, right? This is something that a lot of sellers tend to ignore as they scale. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. And what would you say, what would be the priority? So you gave a lot of great options. What would you say is the priority on that? Like, would you say it's like, oh, it's the advertising, or is it like the reviews? I know everything's important, but what would you say is like, what would be the top three priorities that you would recommend to kind of increase momentum on Amazon?
Yeah, so I'd say first thing or step zero, right, is make
Yeah,
sure you have good reporting around your business, right? Comb through each line of your operation very, very thoroughly, right? So you can identify areas of inefficiency because every dollar matters, right? What you want to do is make your Amazon operation as profitable as possible so you can invest in the tools that will help you scale, right?
sure.
So let's say you've gone to 20K, you're stagnating, right? Okay,
Mhm.
there's opportunity for growth with driving traffic, right? Sponsored ads, it's your friend. Traffic off Amazon, it's your friend. Okay, you're starting to see diminishing returns to your advertising. What's going on?
Yeah,
Is my listing not is my listing not the best, or is it something else, right? You want to really deep dive, and as you said before, A/B test a bunch of different hypotheses, right? A/B test a bunch of different scenarios, and
yeah,
make sure that you're really getting down to the nitty gritty of what is driving your traffic, what's driving your business performance, right? So, look, if you're stagnated, you haven't really been investing. Sponsored ads is a great first step, right? Okay, once you hit a plateau over there at your current level, analyze the listing. Have our reviews not moved in a while? What can we do to drive more reviews, and so on and so
mhm.
forth, and just keep that flywheel going.
Yeah, that's great. And moving on to the medium sized seller. So I usually classify these on around the, I would say around $50,000 plus, like $100,000 plus area, to $1 million a year. That's kind of where I classify these guys.
Yeah,
Um, what would you recommend? Because this each stage is a little bit different. It's like by this time you have more than about 10 SKUs. You're working with
yeah,
probably around, if you're at $1 million a year, you're probably working with almost like 10 or probably more than that, probably about 25 SKUs in there. So, what would you recommend to the medium size seller when it
yeah.
comes either to SKU management, like tool changes? What would you recommend to the medium size seller?
Yeah, so at that level or at that scale of business, right, your supply chain issues tend to
Increase,
come in
yeah,
increase in importance, right?
yeah,
So you have shipments getting missing at Amazon. You have um, products getting damaged in the warehouses, right, in the fulfillment centers. You have issues with returns and whatnot, right? At that point, really, really optimizing and auditing that supply chain becomes important, right? What we in this space in the Amazon world, you're seeing a proliferation of reimbursement businesses, right, come into the space, right,
yeah,
and
that's true.
using these tools and auditing your the movement of your inventory from your warehouse down to the customer becomes important, right? What you want to be evaluating is, look, are my shipments getting received properly at Amazon, right? I send 50 units, they get all 50 units. Okay, what happened? If something is missing, how do we claw that back? Get that cash flow back into our system, right? If it's damaged, okay, what's happening? Is this a problem from our end? Do we need to fix the way we package our product, or is it a way that's being handled on the Amazon side, right? You want to have that granularity and understanding and be fighting back, because what people don't know is that, look, Amazon is not going to automatically reimburse you for a lost shipment. No, you need to go
What?
fight that. You need
Yeah,
to go find that, right? And this is an issue for both sellers and vendors, right? Um, and we cover both spaces, right? On the seller side of things, we have tools like Seller Bench, right, that tracks these reimbursements across different claim types for sellers. We have Refund Sniper, which does this for both sellers and vendors. We have Dime Tide, which, unlike most tools in this space, is vendor focused, right? It's a financial operations platform focusing on vendors. And in addition to fighting all these different claims on the vendor side, you have a lot more, right? You have your co-ops, you have your shortages,
Yeah.
you have your Amazon overbilling you on certain fee items and so on, right? Dime Tide goes after all this and make sure that you're paying
Hmm.
exactly, you're getting paid exactly what you should be paid, and you're not overpaying Amazon and excess fees, right? In addition to that, another growing pain that comes at that level of scale, right, is customer service management. And
Yeah.
we all know how we feel about customer service. If I hit up an agent, I want a response yesterday. I do not want to wait 10 minutes. I don't want to wait 10 hours for it. Managing those messages at scale also becomes a challenge, right? Now, we have a tool, Channel Reply. Are you familiar with Channel Reply?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay. Okay, so Channel Reply is a pretty good tool for the e-com seller, right? And I say e-com because it's a connector across different marketplaces, right?
That's
And
cool.
then it plugs into your help desk. Okay, so we connect you from eBay, Amazon, Shopify, a bunch of other stores, right? And then pump it into your help desk of choice. Could be on site, it could be a Zen desk, it could be a fresh desk, and so on, right? It helps you
Hmm.
see all your messages across all your different marketplaces, all in one place, right? Which helps you manage that customer service relationship at scale. Right?
Yeah.
Now, another thing is, look, if you have, let's say, 25, 50 SKUs, not all those SKUs are going to be good SKUs, right? You want to
True.
get to that ASIN level profitability and fully analyze your operation, right? And see, look, which SKUs are bringing you money, which SKUs are just driving losses, right? Some SKUs might not be profitable, but they might be entry points into your brand, into your business, right? And you might want to
Yeah.
keep those for strategic reasons. But understanding the profitability profile is something that you want to do very closely, right? And at that ASIN level, for us, we have feedback with profit analytics that really helps you drill down to the granularity of your performance as well. Yeah.
That's
So
great.
I'd say, yeah, at that level of operation, that's when you want to start professionalizing um, uh, the Amazon operation a little bit more and building specialist functions around these different areas of the business.
That's great. That's great.
Mm.
And moving on to the large seller. So, like, obviously, you have to get a lot of your supply chain in order to get up to this type of level. And you really got to have a solid monitoring system for your SKUs and things like that. You have to have a pretty good deal on your operations. What would you say for the large seller? I usually call these between 1 to 10 million a year. I usually call those large sellers. And there's like extremely large, like 10 million plus. But I would say
Mm.
1 to 10 million. I classify those as large. What would you say? What would be your advice for the large seller on that side?
Yeah. So it's pretty much all these things that I've mentioned, right? And in addition to that, really honing in on your service levels there, right? So it's all these things, right? You want to have all
Yep.
these tools in place to help you monitor your performance. But at that point in time, look, every small positive boost you can get to, let's say, your seller rating, for example, becomes even more important, right? And at that volume of scale, you generally want to have everything automated, right? You
Yeah.
generally do not have a lot of time to dig into things at a very very singular ASIN level, right? At that volume or at that level of business, right? So all
Yeah.
these things that I mentioned become even more important, right? The impact of a missed set of shipments is going to be greater, right? The volume of shipments you're sending out is much larger at that scale. You want to make sure you have tight control on your reimbursement space. Now, if you'll be dealing with a lot more customer service issues. You want to make sure you're locked in on that, right? And if you're someone, let's say, that is even managed to get that large through the arbitrage path, right? You want to build a clean operation around it, right? So let's say before you were an arbitrage seller that was just searching random products online. Okay, you found one, you start
Yeah.
selling. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Then you find a couple more products, you start selling, right? Now you want to build an operation around this and have your team working around one workspace, right? and so that you can all be collaboratively contributing towards finding profitable products for you to sell, right? You could do this with Excel sheets, but at a certain level of scale, it's kind of difficult for that collaboration to be happening smoothly in the Excel sheets, right? Tools like tactical arbitrage and umbrella, which allow you to say have a full team, right? Yeah, your VAs, your product researchers, and whatnot, all under one view, right? Working
Yeah.
together to find those profitable products that you can sell also becomes increasingly important. But I'd say that the tier two seller, or let's call it the seller, the category that you mentioned before this one, and
Small,
then the really
medium.
large, the small, yeah, the mediums,
Mhm.
medium seller and the large
Mhm.
seller generally tend to have similar pain points. It's just
Yeah.
that the larger seller is on a much bigger scale. Yeah, is what
Yeah.
I tend to see. What have you found in your experience to be some of the challenges along the different growth stages?
Yeah, so I would say definitely you're right on the medium size, the supply chain getting up there. The supply chain having a lot of issues there. But I usually see when they're a large seller, they usually have their supply chain in check. They usually have multiple factories by this point. They can order larger quantities. So usually inventory is actually less of a problem for what I see on the large seller standpoint. It's mainly gets to where like they're just trying to scale up on the ad side and just see like what's more profitable, and then that's when they usually bring in more marketing and like more external traffic is usually what I see on that side. So they start spending more on like Facebook ads, branding.
Yep.
um they might spend more on DSP. And DSP is like I still have a hot topic on if DSP is a waste of money or not. So I don't know. Like
Yeah.
we had a brand that cut their
Yeah.
spend from they were spending I think like $300,000 a year, so 30K a month, and
Hmm.
they cut it like to like 1,000. They cut it like basically 100%, just 100%. They basically cut it, and they saw no difference in sales, zero.
Whoa.
So yes, so I'm it's still like I'm like questioning a lot of people were like, did you just question DSP? Like, yes, I'm questioning if it works. So but anyway, like from an
Yeah.
external like Facebook branding side, I do believe in that. Um,
Yep.
and because that's very long term play, building up that credibility. TikTok, they usually a lot more brands are starting to push more there lately. Um,
Yep.
I would say it's more external after once you get to a large brand. Um,
Yeah.
but then
I'm
like they
definitely.
start
Yeah.
spending more on Amazon.
Yeah, I'd say I agree with you on all those points, right? But on the inventory side of things, right? Yes, you may have your supply chain optimized up until it gets to the fulfillment center, right?
True.
And if you are someone doing FBA, right, and you've optimized your supply chain from your factory, it's gone on the high seas, finally landed in the States, going to fulfillment centers, and it all gets lost. That can be extremely frustrating, right?
That
And what
is
you want to
true.
do is make sure you have the remedies to claw back that cash. But on your DSP point, yeah, this is something that we have debates about on the agency business around the effectiveness. Because if you look at the ROASes of your campaigns, your DSP campaigns,
It's
you're not
amazing.
going to be impressed. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Like,
yeah.
yeah, the ROASes look good, right? But the attributable ROAS to the DSP campaigns, that becomes a little bit questionable, right?
Yeah.
So I think I'm with you on in terms of having skepticism, healthy skepticism around the DSP ad type.
It's kind of like after the iOS 14 update on Facebook ads,
Yep.
Facebook started over attributing their sales by like triple. So
Oh
basically,
wow.
it looked like your Facebook ads were killing it. Like, but they just basically multiplied their attributable sales by three. And just because you're showing like your Facebook ads show you're making $100,000, but if you look on your
Yep.
website, you're only making 30. There's a problem. So yes,
Where's
like
my
Facebook's
money?
doing the
Where
same
is my
thing.
money?
Just because you do that just makes it where you lose trust. It doesn't actually fix
Yeah.
anything.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I
The
see with I think in order to establish like going from a medium brand, because I think you can go from being a seller. I always talk about the difference between a seller and a brand.
Yeah.
Those are very big two
Mm-hmm.
distinctions. Being a seller is like Amazon ads, Amazon only focus, sale, 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 sale. But if you want to be a real brand, you have to have real marketing. You have to establish that customer connection.
Absolutely.
You have to really like build something else. And I think that's what differentiates a medium seller versus a large seller is that they have to build brand. And that's where like
Yeah.
TikTok comes into play. Like all these social media channels come into play. And I think that's how you build a real brand. And that's how you become a large scale actual business versus kind of being the short term like sale, sale, sale. Because there's still a lot of sellers that are doing great. Don't get me wrong. Like
Yeah.
making from 0 to 1 million is like, or whatever, 50,000 to 1 million a year is great. But at the same time, if you want to go past that, you're going to have to start building a real brand and you're going to have to go past Amazon. Unfortunately, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
an Amazon expert. I'm an Amazon like person, like, and I'm saying that. So it's unfortunately true that you do have to go past that and you have to start building a real brand at that point. Cause that's just the way it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, a few years ago, a lot of the bigger brands were a bit skeptical about sending the external traffic to Amazon just because you were kind of throwing this traffic into a black box, right? You couldn't really get good measurement, but with um, the attribution, Amazon attribution program coming into play, when was it? A couple years ago, right? You're seeing more and more brands that we work with get more comfortable to the idea of sending that external traffic over from these Facebook properties, from TikTok, as you mentioned, Instagram, over to the Amazon store. So yeah, this is something that definitely becomes very, very important as you get to a certain level of scale.
Yeah.
Something that also we find though, and this is something that generally larger sellers are always doing, right, is innovation of that product line, right? You don't
Yeah.
want to get static at any point in time. Just add in SKUs, add in better SKUs based on customer feedback, based on competitive movements, based on market signals, right? Also keeps that business going, right? The new SKUs bring more people into your brand. They find the old SKUs and it keeps on going and going and going.
Yeah. I totally agree. And like I think the way to win on Amazon is constant innovation. Like you have to be like constantly innovating your product, making new variants and updating it because that's the only thing that separates you from the Chinese. Like the Chinese people that just copy your product, that just make the exact same product, make it two times cheaper than what you're making it
Yep.
for, and then just reselling it. And then because then it becomes that's why I talk about the difference between being a seller and a brand. When you're a seller, it's all about price. There's
Yes.
nothing that differentiates you from a Chinese person versus a like made in the US person. They don't care at this point. But when you establish a brand, you're saying, "Oh, here we're special, here's why." And that's why you buy a Papermate pencil versus another type of pencil. And
Yep.
that's
Yep.
what separates you versus like a Chinese reseller that's just selling your product for way cheaper. And that's why I always say that in order to accomplish that, you have to have brand. That's why I always say that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll even say like that's a very good point, right? The point on the pricing being the main competitive factor at certain levels of scale, right? We even find smaller sellers, right, who generally come into play, or smaller brands that want to sell on Amazon, right, and want to compete with, I guess, as you mentioned, the Chinese sellers on price. It's just never gonna work, right? What we tend to tell these guys is, look, focus more on communicating that premium nature of the product to your audience, right? Sponsor brand video tends to be a great way to do this, right? But
Yeah.
generally speaking, attention spans are not very good, especially
What?
on
What
Amazon,
are you
right?
talking about? Just joking. I'm just
you,
joking.
you're scrolling through this stuff. I think that the last research that I saw was like people don't spend more than like generally most people don't spend more than 5 seconds looking at these sponsored brand videos, and you're not even playing it with sound, right? So you
Yep.
really want to capture the attention right in that moment in time and really invest in that ad type. So yeah, what you're saying in terms of like getting very serious about brand building at a certain
Yeah.
level of scale becomes important, but it's even important to the small seller who has a premium product and wants to communicate that to the customer.
100%. 100%. And it is a different strategy trying to sell a premium product as well. you can't go about it the same way. So, like for example, if I were selling a very price competitive pencil, okay, let's say
Yep.
everyone sells it for $10, and if I were to sell this pencil at $10, it'd be very easy to list under sponsored product next to all the other products. It'd be very easy to sell it. But if I were selling this pencil with another feature for $15, let's say the eraser is 3 times longer. I have a 3 times longer eraser. It's an amazing pencil, and um, with that, I am selling it for $15. I have to go through another strategy. If I am adding another element to this, the consumer is not going to know about the extra eraser. They're not going to know. So that's where you have to communicate differently. You have to use sponsor display, sponsor brand video. You have to use sponsor brand headline. There's a lot of other ways that you have to approach it differently than if you were the same price product.
Yep.
So that's why I always say, like, if you are a little bit premium product, you have to change the way your strategy goes.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what do you find in terms of the ad mix, right? That kind of helps some of these premium brands really drive meaningful traffic, converting traffic to your listings, right? Let's say you had a 100K budget, right? Are you going to
Yeah.
be spending 70% of that on Amazon advertising, Amazon properties? You're going to spend the remainder on external traffic. How would you kind of divvy up that budget as someone who does this type of thing across different
So I
brands?
would say if this was a large seller and they're at a very good point in their lives where they're really good, Amazon is still the holy grail of advertising. With like compared to Facebook, on Facebook you're lucky to get a 3% click through rate. On Amazon, you get a 15% conversion rate. So it's a big difference. And that's where, like, I would recommend, like, this, if someone was selling right now, I would recommend spending about 80% of that budget toward Amazon ads. Um, and if we're just talking about like dedicated Amazon budget, I would recommend
Yeah.
the other 10% to Google ads, and then Google ads to Amazon. And then I'd
Yep.
recommend TikTok for the other 10%. If you were to ask me this a year ago, I would have recommended doing Instagram and Facebook as the
Mhm.
other 10%. But I'm more leaning, depends what age demographic. If you have a 40-plus-year-old product, people for 40-plus-year-olds, I would do the
Yeah.
Facebook Instagram route. But if
Yep.
you have
Okay.
under 40, I would recommend the TikTok route.
Yeah.
So that 10% is kind of variable. But that's kind of what I recommend the split on what people should be spending. And as Amazon's cost per clicks continue to rise as they do every
Yep.
single year, I think that variation is only going to get greater. So I think more, rather than only spending 10% on Google ads, I think that's going to go 20% this Q4. So that's my prediction of how I things are going to progress. And I think that's only going to get greater, in my opinion.
You heard this here first.
I'm going to rewind this a year from now, and I'm going to see.
I told you. Yeah, totally. That makes a lot of sense. It's very interesting what you say about TikTok and how you've shifted that budget composition away from Instagram over to TikTok. Now, is that what would you say that like what is driving that from your end in terms of the
So
budget?
it's mainly because, first of all, the TikTok cost per clicks and the cost per view is very,
Acquisition.
very
Uh-huh.
low, because there's
Yeah.
not a lot of advertising, meaning you can reach a lot of people for a very, very small cost, which makes it um, very good to list. And as long as you have the right creative, you can actually do really, really well. But a lot of people get the creative wrong. A lot of people are
Mm.
designed, they have their mind in the Facebook ad realm, where you create a Facebook ad, you put like a model and then you put some text on it, and then that's your ad. And on Facebook, that works great. But if we were to like send that and do that on TikTok or anything similar to that on TikTok, that's not how that works. Like on
Mm.
TikTok, you have to literally grab your phone, like put horrible lighting on purpose, and because the
Yep.
worse it looks, the better it performed. It's like how it works. And as long as it looks bad, then it'll perform great. And so you have to grab your phone, see how, and then from there record something, record
Yep.
what your experience is, either that or get it from customers, whatever it may be. And then that way it looks authentic, and that way more people are would be more willing to use it. So that's kind of the difference between a Facebook ad and a TikTok ad, and
Yep.
it's usually for that usually a little bit younger demographic, but it ends up going a lot
Hmm.
more viral from that. There's that virality is still there. You can post something organically and get 100,000 views in less than 24 hours. And on Facebook, like you're lucky to get 100 views organically, so
Yep.
you have to spend
Yep.
that money. But
Yep.
it's even cheaper to spend. Like if you were to spend $1,000 on TikTok ads, you could reach hundreds of thousands of people. If you were to spend $1,000 on Facebook, you'd probably only reach like 1,000, 2,000 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah. 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 Agree. Agree. You brought up something that brought my mind to some research that we some analysis we conducted internally, right? And we were looking at the growth, where the growth was coming from on Amazon, right? And what we've seen is that there's been a bit of a shift away from the private label seller into the arbitrage slash reseller categories, right? We're seeing a shift in or a growth in the growth rates of the arbitrage selling space compared to the private label space, right? And I find that to be driven by sort of like a shift in the demographic profile of the e-com seller, right? You're getting younger people who are more involved in this or more interested in getting into like that drop shipping space, right?
Yeah.
And so we're seeing a bigger number of people, and I think the pandemic also brought this about, right? Where people were looking for side hustles, got into the drop shipping space. A few of them hacked it, and then you're seeing them continue on that journey going forward. So that's also like another interesting dynamic that we are seeing play out in the Amazon landscape currently.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree. Even though it is a lot more competitive to do the arbitrage just because of China and like them just like going and kind of scaling that out. Still possible. Not easy though.
No, no,
Like
no, not very, not easy. I'd say we make it much easier than most to do arbitrage, right?
yeah.
I'd say tactical arbitrage is a fantastic tool, right? You can scan thousands of stores across the world to find your arbitrage opportunities, right? And find places where you can flip this for more profit. You have Seller Running, which has taken off like crazy in
Yeah.
Turkey, right? Yeah,
Hmm.
it's taken off like crazy in Turkey, right? You have a
That's
lot of
great.
like young people getting involved in the arbitrage space that way, and they're finding good ways to make money, right? Like the whole thing about this is getting information at scale, right? If you are doing research, going store after store, click after click, tab after tab, trying to find these products, good luck, right? You're not
Yeah.
going to get
It's a
anywhere
lot.
fast,
It's
right?
a lot.
Yeah. But if you have all this computational power scanning the entirety of the internet to try and find you these products, right? That's where you're more likely going to find your success, right? So yes, it's tough, but with the right strategy, with the right tools in place, you can unearth some gems, right, and really grow that Amazon operation.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love that. And is there anything else that's been top of mind for you that you've been wanting to communicate that you see a lot of people doing either this and they should be doing that? Um, or anything else that's been top of mind lately that you've been wanting to communicate?
Ooh, um,
That's a loaded question.
yeah, that's pretty interesting. So I guess we could say on the drop shipping theme, right? A lot of people don't know that you can do drop shipping on Amazon. You just have to be highly compliant, right?
Yeah.
When you do this, and by compliance and the drop shipping space, you have to be the seller of record. It has to look like it's coming from you to the customer, right? What we found a lot of people who try to get into dropshipping do is look, in the interest of preserving their margins, they skip out that compliance step of repacking the products and sending it to the customer and just buy from point A, send it to the customer in point B, right?
Yeah.
That is just not what you want to do. Yes, you may get the short term profit, but Amazon's enforcement team is gonna come and clamp you down, right? That is something that's been on my mind a lot lately. Another thing that I've been thinking about is just the reimbursement space in general, right? It's becoming a space where you have a lot of different providers positing to be doing the same things as the leading competitors in the space, right? And it all comes down to that same thing again, right? Which is compliance, right? Yes, people are getting these things over the line, right? But ensuring you're doing it in a compliant fashion, right? You may get a better rate from a different service provider, but ultimately what you're jeopardizing is the long-term health of your Amazon business if you are going after these claims in a non-compliant manner, right? So you can probably tell that I've been doing a lot of thinking about compliance and how to support sellers and vendors in a compliant fashion. So that's definitely top of mind. That's definitely top of mind. How
That's
about you?
great.
What are you thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about drop shipping. I never did that. I
Yeah.
kind of got into the Amazon space working with pretty high level sellers already. Like I would say medium sized sellers right out of the gate. So I've never worked with a reseller, never worked with a anyone else like that tried drop shipping or things like that. So I have
Yeah.
no experience in it. They've always said, "Hey, Victor, I'm making $100,000 a month. Make me $200,000 a month," and that's what I've been able to do. But not, I've never done the $0 to $1,000 a month level before.
Okay. Okay.
Um, so yeah, that's I don't have a lot of experience in it, but I totally agree. I think a lot of people should be careful with it. It's a super competitive market, and I think long term, I think the best way is to always go private label, because that's where you're gonna have a lot of success, because that's where you can eventually build brand,
Mm-hmm.
and just build a lot more success rather than just because the Chinese will always be, if you're arbitraging, the China is gonna see those numbers and then always gonna like cutthroat you every single time. It's like it's
Exactly.
inevitable. So you got to be ahead of the game on that side.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I know we can go on this for 7 more hours, but unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. Kennedell, please tell them how to find Three Colts, how to find you, and everything else like that.
Yeah, so you could find us threecolts.com. So THREECOLTS.com. You could also, in fact, if you're gonna be at the Prosper Show in Vegas in when is it? In a couple of weeks, right? Stop by our booths over at Prosper. We're gonna be there. And then you can also find us across our socials, Three Colts on Twitter. I believe it's Three Colts underscore com on Instagram. And we also have Three Colts on LinkedIn and whatnot. And if you want to reach me, it's Kennedell at threecolts.com. Happy to discuss and work together and help grow your brands.
That's amazing. Kennedell, thank you so much for joining today. Thank you everyone for watching, and we will catch you next time.